All right, we're going to be doing lesson 1-1 today, which is variables and expressions. And we have a couple of words that we need to define here to get started. All right, our first vocabulary word that we're going to be looking at today is algebraic expression. All right, and the definition for algebraic expression is an expression consisting of numbers, variables, and symbols. So an example of this would be something like 2x to the third. Okay, so you've got number, you've got variable, it can be an exponent or non-exponent form, and then symbol in this case would be multiplication. So another example here would be like if I have x plus 6. I've got a number, a variable, and then I've got a symbol, which is addition in this case. All right, our next vocabulary word that we're going to go to is variable. Symbols used to represent unknown numbers. And we know that these are X, Y, any letter, basically. You could also technically use things like shapes, squares, triangles. You could even use like a smiley face if you wanted. So for a variable, it's just something that is representing a number we don't know. All right, our next vocabulary word is the word term. And there are 3 parts to term, okay? The first is it can just be a number. Any number, 1, 2, 3, just a number. It can be a variable, or it can be the product. Now, for those of you who don't know, product means multiplication, okay, of a number and variable. So an example, a number would be like 6, a variable would be like a, and so then for the third part here, the product of a number and a variable, so like 6a would be some examples there, okay? All right, the next term we're coming to is factor. Let me move this up a little bit here. Okay, and a factor is just something simply that's being multiplied together. Okay, so something like 2 times 3 equals 6. You could say, 5 times 5 is 25. All right, so your factors are these guys right here, the 2 times the 3 and the 5 times the 5. Those are your factors because that's what's being multiplied together. And our last 3 terms, power, exponent, and base, we're actually going to look at those all at the same time. So I'm going to use the example of x to the n power. That's how you would say that, x to the n power. Okay? My base is this x. So that's my base. The n is the exponent. A lot of people want to call that a power, but that little guy, just the n, is actually called the exponent. Now, the entire thing put together is called the power. Okay, so power is the entire thing, exponent is just the n right here, and the base is the x. Okay? All right, and we're going to move on to the next page. And here you're going to see that I have wrote a list of words that deal with addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Okay? And I'm going to kind of highlight and talk about a couple of them, but on all of all these words in the box mean addition. So the word sum, plus, added to, increased by, more than. And I know more than can also be an inequality symbol, but since we haven't been talking about inequalities yet, we're not even going to be thinking in that realm. So the word here, though, this word sum, this is a guy that you're going to need to know. He's pretty important. He's going to mean addition. And you also need to take note that while he means addition, he also could mean parentheses. And we'll talk more about that in this chapter as we get started. The next thing we're going to look at is subtraction. You have, of course, minus, reduced by, or decreased by. Those are saying the same thing. You can go either direction there. Less, difference, subtracted from. Okay? And again, the one we're going to focus on this one is difference. It means subtraction, but it also can mean that I would have parentheses involved. The next word we're going to look at is multiplication. The word product, multiplied by, times, of is a big one. We're going to have to know of this year, all right, because you're going to see it a lot. So product and of would be the 2 big guys here. Now product means multiplication. Sometimes it will mean parentheses as well, but primarily multiplication. And then of is just meaning multiplication as well. All right. And the last one here, division, okay, we only have really 2 words we were using, divided by or quotient. All right. Now quotient does mean division. One of the words you cannot use, all right, is over. So if I have like 2 divided by x, okay? You cannot say 2 over x. I don't want to see the word over. That's going to be a big no-no. You won't get any credit for that, okay? So it's either 2 divided by x or the quotient of 2 and x. Those would both be acceptable, okay? All right, so now on the next part here, it says write a verbal expression for each algebraic. So verbal. So write words for the algebraic. This is the algebraic, and we're going to just put this into words. Now, there's going to be lots of answers that are correct on these, okay? So what you have may not be what the person sitting next to you will have, and that's okay, all right? So I'm going to zoom in here a little bit, and we've got three times. You can't just say 3x. You got to say 3 times or 3 of the product, things like that. So 3 times x to the 4th power. Okay? Another way we could write this, the product. I really like the word product. We're going to be using that a lot this year. The product of 3. And notice that I'm going to put and. I'm not going to put times, okay, because times means I would multiply and then multiply again, and that's kind of silly. So the product of 3 and x to the 4th power. Those would both be good examples of things that you could write for a verbal expression. Okay? All right, let's go to number 2 here. So 5z squared, all right? That is definitely a word we're going to need to know. We'll write it down here in just a second. And then plus 16. So when I write this, I'm going to have 5, that again, 5 times z squared. Now, if you want to say to the power of 2, that's fine. But z squared plus 16. You could also say increased by 16. So there would be an example of something that's good. All right, so now I was just talking about maybe a few other words that we need to know. So let me zoom out here. And I'm just going to kind of write them out over here on the side. All right, and you need to do the same. Okay, so if I have something like 2x, that is saying twice. Okay, so the word twice means I'm going to take 2 times something. All right. If I have something like this, x to the 2nd power, I'm going to say x squared. Okay, x squared. And then the last one we're going to look at is if I have like x to the 3rd power, it's going to be x cubed. X cubed. So these guys right here are words that you also need to have a good understanding of. So the word twice just means multiply by 2. Squared means exponent to the 2nd power. And cubed means exponent to the 3rd power. All right, so now we're going to change directions here, and now we're going to give you some words, and you are going to write out the actual algebraic expression, okay? So it says the product of p and 6. Now, if you don't remember the word product, go back up and look at your chart, but product means multiply. And so what am I multiplying together? The p and the 6. So now, a lot of people will put like p6. That's not how we normally write it. That number really needs to go out front. So I'm actually going to put 6p. And that would be my final answer here. Okay, number 4. 1/3 of, okay, remember of means multiply again, the area A. So it's telling you have to use A for area. So 1/3 times A, or just 1/3 A. All right, now I always put this in right here because this word right here, that less than, on number 5, is always causing fits. Okay, it says 10 less than the product of 7 and f. So notice again that we're multiplying, and what are we multiplying? The 7 and the f. Okay, but that word less than actually tells us that we're going to take 10 off of something. A lot of people will just put 10 minus 7f, and that is a big no-no. That is wrong, because I'm actually taking 10 off of this guy right here. All right, so a correct response here would be 7f minus 10. Okay, so I don't know what you need to do here, but highlight, take note that less than means to kick the front part out back. Okay, but less than is that word that's going to get some of you guys. All right, and for our last example here, we've got a word problem. And it says, Mr. Wyatt orders 250 keychains printed with his athletic team's logo and 500 pencils printed with their web address. Write an algebraic expression that represents the cost of the order. Define your variables. Okay. All right, so I'm looking for cost, and that's really important that we identify what it is that we're looking for. Okay, we're looking for cost. Okay, so now when I define variables here, I'm actually going to have two of them. I have to look in terms of the keychain and in terms of the pencil. Okay, all right, so for keychains, let's go ahead and I'm going to put K for keychains. We always define our variables. We always tell them what they mean. And so in this case, can't just put keychains because that doesn't really tell me what we're looking for. I need to know a number of keychains, the size of the keychain, the cost of the keychain. I got to know exactly what we're looking for. And in this case, we're looking for cost of keychain. Okay, and I'm going to do the same thing for pencils. So I'm going to use P for pencil, and I'm going to put cost of pencil. Okay. All right, so now to come up with a total amount of money here, we're going to take the 250 keychains and multiply that by how much they are. So if there's like $2 a piece, and I take 250 times 2 and get $500. And I'm going to add that to the total amount I'm going to spend on the pencils. So I have 250K plus 500P. Now notice that it says right here the word expression. Okay? Expression means no equal sign. That is very important. You have to know that. Okay? So since it says no equal sign, I'm done. If it said equation, now I would need an equal sign with something else. All right? All right, and that concludes the notes for lesson 1-1.